Hello, we are live from COP25 at the Italian Pavilion, and please follow the conversation with the hashtag C4C Live and We Are Action. I am Raquel Silva from Portugal. I have with me Mafalda Duarte, Head of Climate Investment Funds. She's also from Portugal.
Yes.
Bem-vinda. Olá.
Olá.
I would like to begin asking you if you can tell us a little bit more about CIF and what do you do there?
Obrigada, Raquel. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. So the climate investment funds are a large multilateral set of funds that were established back in 2008, where we were in the peak of a financial crisis and where the international negotiations on climate change weren't going so well, to basically use the multilateral development banks that have a track record in developing countries and help provide the incentives to shift decisions towards clean and climate resilient investments. So right now, over the past 11 years, we are now working in 72 developing countries globally and have more than 300 programs in areas such as renewable energy, energy efficiency, sustainable transport, forest. So we have really become, the largest learning laboratory on climate finance and deployment of climate finance in developing countries. And very happy with the results. We in most of the countries where we have invested, we are first movers. We help the first, second, third types of projects. We help create markets. We are helping provide access to finance to communities and enterprises that never had access before for climate resilient investments or forestry, sustainable forestry. And we even have innovative instruments in our portfolio, like a dedicated grant mechanism for indigenous people, where we are actually providing finance directly to representatives and organizations that are from these communities and are basically helping these indigenous communities help them do what they do best, which is protect our forests, and while making a livelihood out of it. So it's a fascinating portfolio. It is a fascinating work. I have had the privilege of visiting a lot of our programs, talking to the people, from youth to elderly, and how they are contributing to the economic and social development of their societies, while at the same time contributing to our global climate goals. It's extraordinary.
Thank you, Mafalda. And as I understood, for the last decade, you have been helping transitioning countries, developing countries, to transit to low carbon. So there are some challenges. Can you tell me a little bit more about just transition?
Yes. So I think what we have to realize right now is that our climate goals. We don't have a lot of time, as we know. The science is very clear. We have a decade, slightly more than a decade, to make profound changes in the way we make investments, in the way our societies operate and go about their lives, basically. And this poses a challenge. So, it has always been a premise of the work that we do and the development work that everybody does, that we must strive to leave no one behind. And we know that with the rise of globalization, what we have seen is an increase in social inequalities. This globalization has tended to benefit the richest 1%. Now, and we see this, this realization in a lot of societies, and that's why we have so many manifestations in multiple countries worldwide, where people are calling for addressing these social inequalities and really making sure that we leave no one behind. Now, what's going to happen is that with climate change, the challenge becomes quite much more profound, because we have to make significant transitions in all sectors of our economy, structural changes in a very short period of time. And so therefore, if we didn't have this time pressure, we could probably, allow a process of learning and adjusting. But right now we have this urgency, which means that we have to be very deliberate and focused in everything we do about thinking, thinking about how do we lead, how do we support transformation in these sectors, energy, transport, water, agriculture, but at the same time be very deliberate about what are the strategies to leave no one behind. So, we have done quite a bit of work. In fact, we have been spearheading work on transformational change on climate finance, and really trying to come up with, a framework. What are the different things that we need to think about and consider when we invest if we really want to drive this change, deep change in the way, these sectors operate. Now what we want to do is, now we want to contribute to all of this body of analysis that we've already generated on transformational change and bring this dimension of just transition. So we want to do case studies, we want to fill gaps in the research, and basically do more dedicated work with some countries, and really then bring it back to what we do, which is make sure that is explicit in the way we provide our finance. So in terms of our investment criteria, in terms of what the process will be to prioritize investments, and what the composition of those investments will look like.
And you mentioned you are a learning laboratory.
Correct.
And how do you intend to use your wealth and experience and resources to help in the just transition, and what are your next steps?
So this, I was basically mentioning, one is to help fill the analytical gaps. And the second is to make sure that we bring that and what is already known. So we already know that, to ensure just transition, we have to be very deliberate about bringing governments and industry and civil society and indigenous people and women's groups to the table in an open and transparent dialogue and talk about these transitions. What are the strategies that one needs to carry forward to help, the communities that will be affected by these transitions that are going to be quite, that need to happen fast and are quite deep. So we need to make sure that there are those dialogues, that we come up with strategies for transition that take into account, what type of support these communities will need in the transition, what type of upskilling, retraining, redeployment, and consider that as an integral part of everything we do. And we are deeply committed. We next 2020 we are going to dedicate resources to help precisely this: fill the analytical gap, provide practical examples, try to provide practical examples of how this can be done, and then incorporate it into everything we do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Pleasure. And
thank you for you at your side to be watching, and please continue to watch for the next conversations. Thank you.